Hello folks, happy new year and welcome to the first news video for 2024. I'm going to crack straight on right after you've given this video a thumbs up. We're looking at Autocar and AutoExpress primarily in this video. The 2024 Consumer Electronics Show has just happened in Las Vegas. You'll see things like new phone launches, cameras, video games, all that kind of stuff, but also nowadays, of course, some car technology. So a good few car stories coming up from there. One has been the Afeela Saloon concept. This is a joint venture between Sony and Honda, and it's had a few styling tweaks since they showed the first concept. The side view cameras have been replaced with conventional mirrors, which I think is a good thing. I'm not a massive fan of those side view cameras, despite the fact that you get a wider view. It's just, I don't know, seems like technology for the sake of technology. Front and rear ends have been tweaked to give a more angular look, but most importantly, technical specs were confirmed. 241 brake horsepower on each axle, 91 kilowatt hour battery capable of recharging rates of up to 150 kilowatts, more than competitive really. Production car will also benefit from a number of high profile partnerships from the world of technology. Polyphony Digital, developer of the Gran Turismo video games, will provide its expertise in simulations to help develop the car, while Microsoft's OpenAI service will underpin the onboard digital assistant. The Honda O series concepts were shown. That's a bizarre looking vehicle, is it not? Honda's completely rethought its approach to EV development with a new pair of concepts. Efficiency, engagement and practicality are priorities for its next generation of global models. It looks like they'll probably be hitting Europe in 2026. Interesting that Honda have sort of rethought their EV proposition. Obviously the Honda E was a very cool thing, but it didn't really work and they've withdrawn that from sale. The ENY is not getting amazing reviews. I haven't driven one yet, but it's not getting amazing reviews. And at the moment, Honda are producing some great hybrid vehicles, so maybe they're a little bit late to the party. By the way, I've got to address this once again. Most of the news is about electric vehicles. That's not because I've gone looking for it. It's just what the news is. I'm not holding back internal combustion engine news because I'm a mad EV fanatic. I'm not. This is just the news, folks. If you're a petrol head, yeah, I don't know. Stories are getting thin on the ground, I must admit. Kia electric vans, more on those in a second. The Mullen 5 RS, this is an interesting looking thing. Now here they say this is a rival to the Tesla Model X planned, but I think it's got to be a rival to the Model S somehow. Claiming a power output north of 1,000 horsepower and a top speed of 200 miles per hour. The 5 RS is said to feature a dual motor, four-wheel drive powertrain, 800 volt electricals and 6 4-piston Brembo brakes. And there we go, looks a bit of a beast. I don't know, something slightly Mustangy about that for me, although it doesn't really look like one. The Supernal SA2, that's a helicopter car-y thing. And the Golf Mark 8.5. So there's been lots and lots of coverage of this new Golf. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit over the top because people have been covering this like it's a brand new car. And it's really just a facelift and a reasonably mild one at that. And a lot of it's just sort of infotainment type stuff. But we'll look at some of that later on in the video. So here are those Kia vans that I touched on just then. They're going to enter the world of commercial vehicles in 2025 in an electric van called the PV5. I'm just going to show you some pictures here. And this is going to be a rival for the Transit. You've also got some very titchy little vans here, which I think look mega. How popular they'll be in the UK, I don't know. But as sort of Amazon delivery vehicles and things like that, particularly in large cities, surely there's a home for them. The PV5 is 4.7 metres long and has a punchy target price of £30,600 for an entry-level model. Although we don't know what size battery it's going to be on that entry-level model. It looks set to be built on the same platform as the EV6 and the EV9 and should be coming to the UK in 2026. There are several variants of it. There'll be sort of front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive by the looks of it. There'll be high roof, all the rest of it that you would normally expect with a commercial vehicle. But interesting to see the Koreans entering that commercial vehicle space. BMW plant to cease internal combustion engine car production in 2027. This is the Munich plant, which is probably the most famous of the BMW production plants. The new class EVs will be made from 2026, closing the curtain on 75 years of combustion engine output. BMW have spent over $500 million to expand and sort of retool the site, which is over 100 years old, and it does look set to be home of the new electric 3 Series replacement. Look at this thing. The Chinese keep coming, don't they? BYD reveals new 1,000 horsepower plus BMW i5 M60 rival. The third model from BYD's new upmarket brand will go on sale in China this year, and it could be EV all range extender. Now, this luxury brand from BYD is snappily called the Yang Wang. That's not a joke. It's actually called a Yang Wang. I think they might have to revisit that for Europe. I don't really know. And this is the Wang U9, which is a fairly incredible looking thing. Big, very sleek saloon, not dissimilar, I guess, to something like the Lucid Air. At this stage, it isn't known if the four-wheel drive saloon will feature a range extender powertrain as used by the U8 or a pure electric one found in the U9. The REX system of the U8 combines a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine with 4 electric motors and a 49.1 kilowatt LFP battery. It develops 1,180 brake horsepower. This new Yang Wang flagship could cost upwards of yen 1 million or £110,000, but in China. So what that would cost by the time it got to our shores, if it ever will, I hate to sort of speculate on, but it's not going to be cheap, is it? Volkswagen up to return in 2027 as a low-cost EV. Inbound tech developments will allow entry-level Volkswagen to enter the low-cost EV segment. This could be the ID1. All right, or they could come up with something else for the ID1, but it would seem to make sense to make this the ID1 when it appears. Lots of speculation about price of the ID1, as they've already given a target of, I think, 25,000 for the ID2. They're speculating in here that it could be 25 to 20,000. If the ID2's that sort of money, you've got to think that they're going to try and price this a fair bit less, but who knows? I think it's a great move for VW to produce some more cost-effective cars, particularly now with the zero emissions vehicle mandate, where they have to sell a certain percentage of their vehicles as zero tailpipe emission cars. Otherwise, you know, they're getting fined massively for every car that they sell that's outside of that limit. So it makes sense to put more affordable cars out there. I think we're seeing EVs now that are made for two very specific markets. You've got the utilitarian everyday car that you can also do your long journeys in, and then you've got your pure city cars. And I think that's where they need to drive the prices down. And you'll probably end up with lots of two-car households where they have the city car for the short commute stuff, and they have something else with longer range for sort of the big family trips. Or maybe car number two's a petrol or a diesel for the time being. BMW Group makes record sales in 2023 as EV interest grows. Now, the BMW Group, of course, is BMW itself, Mini and Rolls-Royce. They've sold over 2.5 million cars, with electric vehicle numbers rising by 74.4%. Now, that's quite interesting because BMW haven't aggressively discounted their EVs, to my knowledge. I also don't think they've had an absolutely killer proposition of an EV yet. I think the i4 is actually quite a special car, but some of the others are not bad cars in any way. But I think for the price they're asking, I don't think they've yet found that perfect match between I really want that car and it's a really good price. So the fact that their EV sales have increased by that amount, quite surprising, really. The i4 and the iX1 have been their biggest electric car sellers. UK electric vehicle charger network grew by 45% in 2023. Ultra-rapid chargers more than doubled in number as infrastructure rollout accelerated. Should be mentioned, though, that the government still missed their target of fast EV chargers in motorway service stations, which is a bit of a disappointment considering they are doing their best to push everyone into EVs. They really need to be doing what they can to get these targets hit. And I think a lot of it is down to local planning rules. And it seems astoundingly stupid that you've got basically the boss, the government, at the top here saying, we must do this. And then you've got local councils saying, oh no, I don't think we can have it there because somebody might make a noise when they're charging their car. Put down your clipboard, local councillor. Get this thing done. BT converts curbside signal cabinet into EV charger. Some 60,000 redundant phone and broadband cable cabinets could bolster public charging EV infrastructure. So BT now, all over the country, are moving away from traditional copper cabling and things, and they're going to fibre networks, and that's going to create lots of space in their cabinets. I think in the existing cabinets, they can actually put some sort of device in there to split the power and have one charger from it and still have all the broadband gubbins in there. In future, when it's full fibre everywhere, they say they'll be able to have multiple chargers coming from one of those cabinets. And obviously with 60,000 of these cabinets around, if we get to a point where you get 3, for example, of each one, that's quite a lot of extra charge points. And I guess a bright spark at BT has seen the opportunity. They've got all these cabinets that will soon become empty with power going to them. So let's make the most of it. So well done, BT, really. So folks, ahead of the new Renault 5 launch, you might see lots of marketing coming out and advertising campaigns and things around Renault. They're really trying to relaunch their brand and make people think differently about what Renault is and who Renault are. They don't have the most amazing reputation these days, do they? But, you know, you go back 20, 30 years and they were producing some pretty decent cars and a little bit of dross. But, you know, they had a lot of motorsport success and things. And it was a brand that a lot of people sort of held fairly close to their hearts. And they're really trying to bring that back. And the Renault 5, the new Renault 5, is probably the first real step towards it. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out in future. There have been times in recent years where Renault's felt like it's become a little bit lazy, dare I say. So if they start to produce some exciting vehicles like this Renault 5, I'll be quite interested. I don't know about you. Gridserve opens a new site at Gatwick with 30 EV chargers. It's the first thing of its kind, really, at any major European airport, and it's their third hub in the UK. We've got one at Braintree and one at Norwich. Gridserve claims it's one of the most advanced electric car charging facilities in the world. New facilities equipped with 30 chargers, 22 of which are ultra-fast CCS, which can supply rates of up to 350 kilowatts, adding as much as 100 miles of range in 10 minutes. 4 Tesla superchargers have also been installed, but they're yet to be energized. I know Tesla superchargers, there seems to be a particular planning issue with those. Loads of them sat at fleet services for years before they were energized, and I've got no idea why, but evidently it was something related to planning. The facility is supplied directly by the national grid, but Gridserve tops the grid back up with an equivalent amount of energy generated by its own solar farm, such as that in Clay Hill, which at peak generates 10 megawatts. This will make the Gatwick hub effectively powered entirely by renewable energy. There's also a 6 megawatt battery on site to increase power supply at peak times. The chargers are connected to the internet so users can check availability and individual charge levels from elsewhere. Now over on AutoExpress, fat supermarket fuel price margins gobble up driver savings. Supermarkets hold drivers over a barrel, but independent garages show the way with lower pricing. This is the same story that comes up month after month, but I feel like I can't do one of these without a fuel price story these days. But basically, the supermarkets are taking more margin than they used to, and typically they're priced 4p less than the other retailers. So if they keep their prices high, the other retailers also keep their prices high, is a long story short. KGM launches in the UK. SsangYong dealerships to be rebranded by mid-2024. SsangYong's logo will sit alongside the new KGM name. So I think we covered this a while ago, that SsangYong was renaming as KG Mobility, but I think it will just be known as KGM, which sounds far more sensible as a car brand than either SsangYong or KG Mobility, certainly in the UK. The first car to actually get the new KGM branding will be the Torres, which is coming, I think, later this year, and that's quite a nice looking SUV. But I think they've done a good thing here. They've addressed what has been a bit of an issue for them, the name SsangYong, which most people can't pronounce, and they've had some slightly weird styling styling in some of the cars over the years. Any SsangYong vehicle I've been in, I have to say I've been pretty impressed with it. So it'll be interesting to see how the KGM does in 2024 and beyond. ZEV electric car mandate sales targets become law. 22% of all new cars sold must be electric from today, rising to 80% by 2030. And when they say electric, that means battery electric and, of course, hydrogen electric. So there is the choice, but as we know, the hydrogen cars are far less efficient and you need more electricity to produce the hydrogen. So this is the proportion of sales to be zero emissions and how it goes up every year, and it's fairly steep. For companies like Tesla and BYD and MG, it's not going to be a massive issue, but for companies like BMW and Mercedes and Ford, it is going to be an issue. Proportion of car sales to be zero emissions this year's 22%, and van sales is 10%. 2025, 28 and 16. And by the time we get to 2030, it's 80%, and 70% of vans have to be EVs. Jaecoo J7 to launch premium Chinese brands UK arrival. So Jaecoo is a sub-brand of Chinese car maker Chery. They've also got the Omoda brand, which is also, I think, coming to the UK with the Omoda 5, their SUV. This is the J7. Let's have a look at a couple of pictures of it. There we go. Certainly, probably a little bit of a tip of the hat to the Range Rover there. Very cool looking interior. And again, if you look at that steering wheel, a little bit of a tip of the hat to JLR with that one maybe. But it's an interesting looking vehicle. Some people are going to be just challenged by some of these brand names like the Jaecoo. It sounds a bit odd in the UK, and some people will find that a challenge that they struggle with, just like they did with Hyundai and Kia for so long. But it does look like a fairly compelling vehicle. Starting price of around 40 grand is expected on that, and it certainly looks like a big beast. That is going to possibly turn a few heads. Now, this is going to come out as a plug-in hybrid. It's going to have a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine and 2 electric motors for a total of 197 horsepower and 290 newton meters of torque. 0-62 in 8 seconds, and Jaecoo says it's going to offer a driving experience that is both capable in all terrains as well as refined. So with that kind of powertrain setup, it feels like they're probably going after customers of things like Toyota RAV4, Hyundai Santa Fe, etc. And be interested to see how they do. I can't wait to get into some of these new brands. A lot of people are very skeptical about new brands. For me, I just can't wait to get in and see what they bring and at the price point they can bring it. It's an exciting time. There's a lot of change and a lot of people fear change, but it's an exciting, interesting time in the car industry at the moment. Right, so we mentioned at the CES show in Vegas that VW had shown this new Golf. One of the big things is that they're putting ChatGPT integration into new VW models. I don't know if we really need it, do we? It's basically a chat bot, so you can ask it questions a bit like you would with Alexa or something, and it should give you better responses to your questions. But what you will note, if you look at this picture carefully, is they're giving us ChatGPT integration, which I think has been requested by around about 0, but it looks like we still haven't got a volume knob. I stand to be corrected, but I can still see the slidey things there for the volume and the aircon. What I can see, though, is that they've put the old steering wheel back on, and that's actually got proper buttons rather than haptics. So they've listened a little bit at the moment, but I'm expecting more from you, VW. Lots more. And the Skoda Octavia is going to get the same thing. And once again, we can see here we've still got slidey haptics for volume controls and their pants. Now check this out. The HWA Mercedes 190e 2.5 16 Evo 2 Resto mod is the ultimate 1990s throwback. If you don't remember, the Evo 2 was a very special version of the 190e. I loved the 190e when I was a lad. I absolutely lusted after one of those things. They only made 500 of the Evo 2s. This is a complete resto mod version. They've sort of taken the old car and breathed on it in all the right places to say what they to make what they say is the ultimate Evo 2. The bad news is they're only making 100 of them, and to get one of those, it will cost you over 600 grand. And another new brand coming to the UK is going to be VinFast. As you know, I went over to the LA Auto Show in November, and VinFast had quite a big presence there. I was amazed by the size of the stand for a company that I was previously unaware of. They're Vietnamese, they make electric cars, and they are planning to target their guns at the UK right now. From the little I saw of them at LA, it looks like they could be quite compelling. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to drive anything, but they seemed quite competitive in terms of the numbers that they were showing. Certainly the quality of the cars seemed good. I think the highest range was about 370 miles, 380 miles in something. Whilst I don't like to get too ahead of these things, particularly when they're in the discussion phase, because you never know what the UK product's going to look like or what it's going to be priced at, I can't help but be a little bit interested by this. Just to see a couple of different badges on the roads is a happy story for me. Right, over to the Daily Mirror. London car parking space costs 90 grand but would struggle to fit the average motor. I mean, it's a throwaway story really, but just the fact that someone's selling a car parking space for 90 grand means it only could be London. So no massive surprises, but London is a bonkers place these days. BBC now, watchdog to investigate compensation over car loans. The city regulator, the FCA, will review whether people who believe they were charged too much for the car loans are owed compensation. What they're not looking at, though, is something that is glaringly obvious. The fact that people are being missold these things all the time. The fact that people want to pay cash for a car and they have to sit through a sales presentation about PCP and HP. That's misselling. They should not be doing that. That's against the FCA guidelines. If insurance companies did some of the things that car dealerships do, they would be closed. But with car dealerships, they seem to turn a blind eye to a lot of it. Maybe this will be sort of the tip of the arrow, and once we get past this, they'll start to look at the rest of car dealerships' sort of finance operations. But for me, that's the thing they need to attack more than anything, because if the price is put in front of someone and they sign up for it, I sort of think that's their business. But if they're being forced to sit through presentations, that's just wrong. This one's on my website, and Aura have just sold their 1,000th Funky Cat in the UK. That's really impressive for a little new brand, especially one with a fairly challenging name and quite a challenging design as well with that car. From the middle of this month, by the way, the Aura Funky Cat is going to become the Aura 03, and they're just going to go to a number type naming convention for new models. And that new naming convention may even help them shift a few more cars, because Funky Cat is a pretty weird name. And finally, this is from my chum Alex, also on my website, notaguru.co.uk. Alex Lowe's written this. I do the Charging Status podcast with Alex, which you may have seen on my channel, as we did it as a little one-off just before Christmas. But the Renault Zoe's been discontinued after 11 years. Seems odd that they've discontinued the Zoe, which has sold nearly 400,000 units, because they don't have a direct replacement out for it yet. I thought they may have held fire on this until the Renault 5 came out, but it may be that they need to retool the factory or something, and there's a reason why they need to stop production. But it seems like an odd move. It's always been a fairly popular car, the Zoe. You see lots of them on the road. There's still lots of old ones on the road, but it's goodbye to the Zoe. Now, folks, I've threatened to do this before, but I'm going to do a channel meet. So anyone that wants to meet up for a coffee can do so. And I think it's going to be round about the Winchester area, and it's going to be on a Sunday morning. And it will just be a very informal thing where I'll say, I'm going to be here at this time. If you want to come along, please do. And hopefully lots of like-minded people can get together, have a chat and share a coffee and have a bit of a laugh for an hour or two. I'm looking for somewhere to do that other than Winchester Service Station, which is a bit not massively inspiring. It would be good if they had coffee and toilets and plenty of parking. So it might end up being there, I guess, but I'd rather it wasn't. If you have any ideas, let me know. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. See you on the next one.